You know the scene. It's end of the quarter. The numbers are looking a little soft.
Hmm.
The sales VP is sweating. The CEO is just staring at a spreadsheet that refuses to go up, and the tension in that room is just thick. And then someone, it's always the loudest person, slams their hand on the table and screams the magic words.
Let me guess. We need more leads.
Bingo! We need more leads. It is the universal battle cry of, stressed out business. It's instinctual, right?
Of course.
If the fire is dying, throw more wood on it. If the bucket's not full, turn the hose on harder. It feels like the only logical solution. But today, we're going to look at why that instinct is not only wrong, it might actually be the thing that destroys your quarter.
It is a bold claim, but when you look at the data, it really holds up. Today we're doing a deep dive into the first episode of a series called Revenue in Motion. It's from a company called Aim First, and it's hosted by their founder, Erwin. And his whole thesis is going to make a lot of marketing managers very uncomfortable.
Good. I like uncomfortable. It usually means we're getting to the truth. So what's the thesis? Why is more leads such a bad thing?
Well, the thesis is this. Most companies do not have a lead generation problem. Even if they swear on a stack of Bibles they don't. They have a revenue flow problem.
A flow problem.
Yeah. And if you pour more leads into a system that doesn't flow, you aren't fixing revenue. You're just increasing your burn rate, creating noise, and just accelerating the chaos.
Okay, hold on. That sounds great in theory, but if I'm a business owner and my salespeople have empty calendars, my brain is screaming, I need more people for them to talk to.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's a trap?
It is absolutely a trap. Think of it like a plumbing system in a house. If you have a massive clog in the pipes or, a leak in the basement, turning up the water pressure doesn't get more water to the shower.
It just floods the
It
basement.
just bursts the pipes and floods the basement. Erwin argues that we're obsessed with the input, the leads, because it's the easy thing to see. But we completely ignore the mechanics of the engine itself.
That makes so much sense. We're so focused on the faucet, we don't realize the drain is clogged. So let's unpack that obsession, because lead gen is practically a religion in B2B. Why are we so fixated on it if it's not the root cause?
It really comes down to human psychology and visibility. Lead generation, it sits at the very top of the funnel. It's highly visible. You can count the contacts, you can count impressions, you can count the MQLs, the marketing qualified leads. It feels actionable,
Right.
You can put a number on a spreadsheet and say, look, I did my job. I brought in 50 names.
Right, it's a vanity metric. It gives you that little dopamine hit. I got 50 leads this week. It feels like success even if nobody buys a thing. It's like counting how many people walk past your store window versus how many actually came in and bought something.
Precisely. It's instant gratification. But what happens next is murky. The movement of that lead, the velocity, how fast it turns into a deal, that's much harder to see and measure. So leaders focus on what they can see. They feel they aren't getting enough opportunities, but the reality is often they have plenty of opportunities. They're just sitting stagnant.
So we have a pile of leads gathering dust, and instead of cleaning them up, we go out and buy more dust.
And it's worse than just dust. There's a real financial penalty to this whole more is better mentality. Erwin explains this negative feedback loop in the episode. When you pump volume into a stalling system, your cost per lead goes up because your revenue isn't matching the spend.
Oh, sure.
But then the teams just start working harder for less result. Marketing blasts more channels to hit their quota. Sales gets overwhelmed with low-quality data.
And then comes the blame game. I've sat in these meetings. Sales says, marketing is sending us junk. And marketing says, sales is lazy. They aren't calling the leads we send. It gets toxic so fast.
That argument is the classic symptom of a flow problem, not a lead problem. If those teams are throwing bricks at each other over a wall, it just means they don't have a shared definition of success. They're optimizing for their own silo, not for the flow of revenue.
They're busy protecting their own turf rather than fixing the pipe.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the goal isn't more leads, the goal is revenue flow. What does that actually look like in practice? Because flow sounds a bit abstract, almost philosophical.
It is philosophical in a way, but Erwin breaks it down into a life cycle with 4 distinct stages. It's a simple image, but the nuance is key. First, you have the market. That's the first contact, getting them to know and like you.
Okay.
Second is activate. This is where they become actual leads. They're showing interest. Third is conversion, building trust, and turning them into a client. And fourth, and this is the one everyone forgets, is expansion and retention.
That sounds like a standard funnel. What makes Aim First's approach different here?
The difference is focusing on motion over stages. Most companies look at a CRM as just a static snapshot. We have 100 leads in stage 2. Great. But how long have they been there? Irwin says having a CRM that is full means nothing if the movement is zero.
Right.
A small number of leads moving fast, high velocity, is instantly better than a massive database of opportunities that haven't moved in 3 months.
It's the difference between a stagnant pond and a rushing river. You want the river. You want things moving downstream.
Exactly. You want velocity. If a deal sits in one stage for 6 months, is it really a deal? Or is it just a line in a database making you feel better about your pipeline?
It's a security blanket, so let's play plumber. Where does the river get dammed up? If we stop blaming the lead count, where should we be looking for these invisible breaks?
Irwin identifies a few usual suspects. These are the places where revenue goes to die. And the first massive break happens at the handoff, specifically from marketing to sales.
The danger zone, the Bermuda Triangle of business.
It really is.
Yeah.
In many organizations, this is a dead zone. Marketing thinks, job done, I generated the lead, it's in the system. But sales looks at it and goes, these aren't ready for me. Why are you wasting my time?
Yeah.
Irwin points out that in so many organizations, there isn't even a clear definition of what a sales-ready lead actually looks like.
That seems so basic, though. How do big companies miss that?
Because they speak different languages.
Yeah.
Marketing marks a lead as qualified because they downloaded a PDF and have a pulse. Sales ignores it because the prospect didn't explicitly ask for a demo. If you don't have a shared definition of ready, you have a leak. The lead just falls into the gap between the two teams and dies.
It's like a relay race where the first runner just throws the baton at the second runner instead of handing it off and then wonders why they dropped it.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of dropping the baton, that leads us to the second major breakpoint, the follow-up. And this is where we get into the battle between timing and perfection.
Oh, I remember this from the notes. Irwin has a specific rule about this, right?
He does. He shares a really compelling anecdote about the 2-hour rule. Imagine 2 scenarios. Scenario A. A prospect downloads a white paper. The sales rep sees it, but they want to impress. So they spend 2 days researching, thinking about a clever subject line, making sure the font is nice. They want to craft the perfect email.
I've been that guy. You don't want to look stupid. You think, if I just send a generic email, they'll ignore it. So you overthink it.
Right. But by the time they send that perfect email 2 days later, the prospect reads it and thinks, who are you? What white paper? They've already forgotten they downloaded it. They moved on to 5 other problems. The emotional momentum is just gone. The spark is out.
Ouch. So perfection killed the deal.
Exactly. Now look at scenario B. The rep sees the download and calls or emails within 2 hours. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's just, hey, saw you grab the white paper on cybersecurity. Was that relevant to what you're working on?
And because it's fresh, they actually remember doing it.
Yes. Irwin's takeaway is momentum beats perfection. Imperfect action now is better than perfect action later. If you wait, you lose the flow. The prospect's interest has a half-life, and it decays very, very quickly.
That is such a good life lesson, honestly. Imperfect action now. But in B2B, isn't there a risk of being too aggressive? You don't want to look desperate.
There is, but the risk of silence is much, much higher. The data shows that the drop-off in engagement after just 24 hours it's off a cliff. You are better off being slightly imperfect but present than perfectly absent. Speed signals interest and competence.
Okay, so we need speed. What's another trap? Because B2B deals are complicated, right? It's rarely just one person buying.
Correct, and that's breakpoint number 3, the multi-stakeholder trap. High-ticket deals involve committees, and often companies miss what Irwin calls hidden signals.
Hidden signals, like what?
So Irwin gives this example. Let's say you have a lead you're working on, maybe a mid-level manager. Suddenly, a C-level executive from that same company visits your website. They don't fill out a form. They just look at the pricing page and the About Us page.
Okay.
To a basic marketing system, that looks like low-value activity. Oh, just a random page view, no form fill, ignore it. But if you connect the dots, that is a massive signal. The boss is checking you out. That is high intent.
Right. If the CFO is looking at the pricing page, the checkbook is opening. They're doing due diligence.
Exactly. But if your system doesn't connect those dots, if it treats that executive as just another random visitor because they didn't download an ebook, you miss the opportunity to speed up the deal. You miss the flow. The system has to see the constellation, not just the individual star.
It sounds like we miss a lot of things because we're too busy looking for the obvious stuff. We want the person to raise their hand and say, I want to buy, but usually they're just quietly looking at the shelf.
That's right. And speaking of hearing what we want to hear, this brings us to one of my favorite phrases from this deep dive.
Yeah.
Happy ears.
Happy ears. It sounds cute, but it's dangerous, isn't it?
It is the silent killer of pipelines.
We've all been there. You get off a call with a prospect, and you're just beaming. You tell your boss they loved it. They said we're exactly what they need. They just need to organize the budget.
And then silence. 3 weeks go by. 6 weeks.
Crickets. And you're just sitting there refreshing your email.
Irwin calls this out as a major cause of stalled revenue. Positive signals create false confidence. The sales team, they stop pushing because they think the deal is effectively won. They mentally check out and move to the next thing because they think, oh, that one's in the bag.
So how do you fight that? How do you cure happy ears? Because it's so hard not to get excited when a client is nice to you.
You adopt the mantra of Irwin's old sales manager. It's harsh, but it's effective. We only celebrate when the ink on the paper is dry.
Brutal, but fair.
Until that ink is dry, you have to track the next step. If there is no scheduled next step on the calendar, the deal is dying. It doesn't matter how much they loved it. Love doesn't pay the bills. Signed contracts do. If you leave a meeting without a booked follow-up, you have broken the flow.
So we've got the handoff, the timing, the hidden signals, and the false confidence. Is there anywhere else this revenue flow breaks down?
There is one more critical area, and it happens after the sale: retention. But Irwin makes a very strong point here. Retention starts at acquisition.
Wait, retention starts at the beginning? I thought retention was the customer support team's job. I sold it, now you keep it.
That's the siloed thinking that causes the problem. Think about it. If a salesperson overpromises to close the deal, if they say the software does X, Y, and Z when it really only does X, what happens?
The customer gets angry and leaves in 6 months. They feel tricked.
Exactly. There is often a massive gap between the sales team closing the deal and the service team onboarding the client. If that handover is messy, if sales doesn't transfer the knowledge, the promises, the context, the onboarding fails. And if onboarding fails, churn skyrockets.
So revenue flow isn't just about getting the money in the door, it's about keeping it there.
Precisely.
Hmm.
If you have a high churn rate, you have a flow problem, and it likely originated in how the deal was sold and handed over. It's all one pipe. If the end is leaking, it doesn't matter how much you pour in the top.
It really does all connect. It's a holistic system. But listening to this, I have to be honest, it sounds overwhelming. If I'm a listener realizing my company has leaks everywhere, handoffs, follow-ups, retention, where do I even start? Do I try to fix the whole funnel at once?
Absolutely not. That's just a recipe for burnout. Irwin suggests using a principle we all know, but with a twist: the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Okay, 80% of results come from 20% of causes. Standard stuff.
Right, but Irwin says apply Pareto to the Pareto.
Pareto squared, like Inception style.
Essentially, if you do the math, 20% of the 20% and 80% of the 80%, it suggests that roughly 4% of your problems are responsible for 64% of your results.
Whoa. So a tiny fraction of the issues are causing almost 2/3 of the pain.
Yes. That means you don't have to fix everything. You don't need to rebuild the entire engine. You have to find the one major break, the one massive leak, and fix that. That alone will have a tremendous impact on the flow.
That is actually very relieving. I don't need to be perfect everywhere. I just need to find the one busted valve.
Yeah.
So how do we find it? I assume this is where technology comes in.
It is. Irwin talks about the role of AI, but he's very, very specific about the do's and don'ts.
Let me guess. Don't use AI to spam people with robotic emails.
Exactly. He explicitly says, do not use AI for robotic automation that pretends to be human. People hate that. It kills trust. Instead, use AI for visibility. Use AI to tell you what is moving, what isn't, and where the bottlenecks are.
So the AI is the radar, not the pilot.
Perfect analogy. The AI should flag the leaks so the humans can prioritize their time on that critical 4%. It's about diagnostics to direction. It's about showing you where the flow is stopped so you can go unblock it.
Okay, so we have the mindset, we have the don'ts. Does Irwin give us any homework? Is there something practical we can do today to find that leak?
Yes, he offers a very specific exercise in Revenue in Motion. He calls it mapping the first 14 days.
How does that work?
You take a lead that enters your system, pick one from last month, and you map exactly what happened in the first 14 days. But, and this is key, you don't just count automated emails sent, you count actual touch points, meaningful interactions.
So marketing automation system sent email number 4 doesn't count if they didn't open it.
Exactly. Did they see it? Did they reply? Did a human call them? Or did the system just spit out generic noise? Irwin suggests you will likely find massive gaps where momentum just dies. Maybe days 3 through 10 are total silence.
Yeah.
Or maybe there are 3 automated emails, but 0 human attempts to connect.
I love that. It's like putting a tracer dye in the water to see where it stops flowing.
Yeah.
You might realize, oh, wow, we ignore people for 5 days straight after they download a white paper.
Exactly. And once you see the reality of those 14 days, once you see that black hole of inactivity, you'll understand why buying more leads wouldn't have helped. If the first 14 days are a black hole, doubling the leads just doubles the size of the black hole. You aren't creating revenue. You're just feeding the void.
This has been a really eye-opening look at something we usually take for granted. We scream, more leads, because it's easy, it's a transaction. But the real work, the high-value work, is in the plumbing. It's in the definitions, the handoffs, and the follow-ups.
It is. And to summarize Erwin's main message from this deep dive, more leads is usually a trap. The solution lies in visibility, clear definitions like defining what a sales-ready lead actually is, and speed of movement. Flow over volume, always.
Now, if you are listening to this and thinking, oh no, I think my funnel is leaking everywhere, don't worry. Aim First and Erwin have actually provided a tool to help with this.
That's right. In the show notes for this deep dive, you can find a link to download the episode presentation, which has all these diagrams. But more importantly, there is a link to the full funnel leak detector.
The leak detector. Sounds like something I need for my house, honestly. But tell us what it does for business.
It's a self-assessment tool mentioned in the episode. It helps you identify exactly where that revenue flow is breaking down in your specific organization so you can apply that Pareto squared principle. It helps you find that 4% problem.
Fantastic. We'll put that link right there for you. It sounds like a great way to stop guessing and start fixing.
And I'll leave you with one final thought from the episode. A question Erwin asks that really just cuts through the noise.
Lay it on us.
If you doubled your leads tomorrow, would your revenue actually double?
Oof, that hurts to think about.
If the answer is no, or even, I'm not sure, then stop buying leads and start fixing the flow.
That is the takeaway right there. Stop pouring water, start fixing the pipes. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into revenue in motion. We'll catch you on the next one.